It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 194.
It was a great show.
Did you get out to the Orb?
I did not, but I wanted to.
Yes, you're right. So did we, but we did not either. So
Yeah, I wish I would have.
We were talking about that earlier. Now, you responded when I asked about the Orb. With your understanding, is that what it's called, or is it the Sphere?
I thought it was the Sphere.
Oh, no! Prolonged exposure to the orb of confusion will give you confusion.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is the online, on-demand, predominantly fastener-related podcast that's been here with you in good times, bad times, times of certainty, and times of utter confusion, which have been in no short supply lately. Hi, everybody. Coming to you from semi-rural Northeast Ohio, Eric Dudas with you. Also with us, it's the co-host of Fully Threaded Radio. He's the man with the deep Southern accent, the hardest working man in the online fastener game. He's Brian Musker. Hey, Bri, you doing all right?
I'm good. I'm just trying to work out which really is the type of feeling at the moment. Is it mass confusion or is it deep depression? Which one of those typifies what's really going on?
Well, it seems like we've got more of that in the news this time. Fortunately, some of it seems to be going in the right direction, so we'll take a look at that today on this episode 194 of Fully Threaded Radio. We're publishing this time on or about November 16th, 2023. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Really glad to have you here. And it's a fair question, Bri, because let's face it, things go up, things go down. We don't always understand what's happening. You can't believe everything you read. I think everybody's pretty much comfortable with that conclusion these days. Used to sound outlandish to think that way, but now here we are.
Right. And if you were actually really to pay much attention to the TV news that's been really going on for the last 8-10 months, you would imagine that we'd already fallen off a cliff, except it wasn't the way it was. There was something else was going on, and it wasn't quite sensational enough to make any of the news media. It was much easier to say that the whole country was going broke and the world was up in flames than it was to say, well, maybe it'll sort out.
I take your point. Simultaneously, however, we've got a bunch of burning bridges around us, and nobody seems to be urging everyone to get off of them. So that's the other side of it.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, but that's sort of newer. The world is in a complete collapse, has been around for 10 months prior to this big problem we have at the moment.
Fortunately, we've got some voices that'll provide something concrete for everybody today to kind of provide some ballast.
Good.
The feature segment today is a conversation with Darlene Collis. She's the VP of Quality at Lindfast Solutions Group, and she is a wizard of standards, and I would say almost she's a Green Slatian-like character. Wouldn't you, Bri?
Yes, but a little more approachable from our experience.
Well, she sure is personable, and we had a great conversation that we'll share with you today. She's just back from the ASTM meeting out in Tokyo. She's a member of several standards committees and boards and groups and things like that. She'll explain, and she's a fountain of fastener wisdom. Kicking off today, we've got another guest who just returned from overseas. It's Würth Revcar CEO, Chapman Revercomb. Now, he was at the annual Würth planning meetings, and Fully Threaded listeners only need to hear the name Würth to know that we're talking about a powerhouse in the industry here. It's always good to keep an eye on what they're up to.
Right.
You'll learn a few things listening to Chapman today. On the Fastener News Report, Mike McNulty is joined by Fuller Fasteners president, Hans Fuller. They'll pour over the recent FDI, and that is a source of confusion in a good way this time, Bri, I would say.
Well, for Hans, pour would sort of mean two things, because he was also pouring out lots of beer at the International Fastener Expo.
That's right. The Canadian bar was a big hit this year in Vegas.
Yes, it was.
He touches on that during his conversation with Mike. He also talks about the Bolts and Hose podcast that we both sat in on. It's another one of these episodes with McNulty where he really steals the show. So Hans Fuller, Mike McNulty on the Fastener News Report. On the Fastener Training Minute, Carmen Vertullo talks about blind rivets, otherwise known as pop rivets or mandrel rivets. Quite a bit to know in that department, as simple as they may seem to the uneducated. Carmen will square you away on that. Plus, we've got a bonus conversation today, Bri, leading into the Fastener News Report. Rosa Hearn of Brighton Best International returns. Don't forget she was with us last episode. This time, she'll be promoting the upcoming NFDA AI webinar. That's happening November 30th. She's participating in a panel. She'll give you all the details on that. It's something that you might want to think about attending, everybody. It's in the middle of the day, no charge to get in on this. And it's a lineup of people who know a thing or two that they'll be sharing. So that's our bonus segment today.
Good. I love bonuses.
You are the king of bonuses, and every episode that you announce the fine lineup of partners we have for this podcast feels like a bonus. Why don't you take that duty on right now, Brian? Run with it with absolutely zero confusion. What do you say?
Right. Well, there is no confusion because we have a really great set of sponsors. We've had them for years. We've got to know them. And we encourage you to make sure that if you are thinking of buying fasteners, you should think of them first. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Gerbil Fasteners, and Star Stainless Screw Company. Brighton Best International, tested, tried and true. Gerbil Fasteners, quality the first time. Star Stainless Screw Company, right off the shelf. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, InSequel Software, J-Land Franco, Parker Fasteners, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, Würth Industry North America, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man.
Thank you, sir. Reach out anytime, folks. We'd be glad to hear your comments, questions, concerns, and so forth. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. You know, we don't say it often enough, but we do appreciate it when you recommend Fully Threaded to your friends and maybe do a share. Think about that. If every one of our listeners did a share this episode, it would really help us out a lot. We don't do a whole lot of promotion, on the socials or anything. So really the best way we have to grow is through word of mouth.
Yeah, right. Promotion is not one of our strong points, even in Fasteners Clearinghouse. Yeah, which has been around for 16 years now.
I got a kick out of Heidi. I was listening to, I think it was the Fastener Fair clips that Lynn had recorded, her woman on the street interviews, and Heidi was saying, this was a pretty good show, and we met a lot of customers and stuff, but it was really eye-opening to realize that there were people at this event that had never heard of Volt. She seemed really chagrined by it. And I know the exact feeling. It's like, wow, you've been doing it all these years and you still, what industry are you in?
Yeah, right. Fastest Clearinghouse. Well, what's that? Really?
And of course, that's the FCH sourcing network. We do a terrible job of promoting it. There you go. fastenersclearinghouse.com. Get out there anytime you need to find a hard to find part, or if we can help you on the other side of that coin, we'd be happy to list your parts out there too.
Or actually help you find out what your parts really are, as we do for many other companies when they're trying to either list their parts or get them ready with all the attributes to list on their NSequel website.
That's not confusing. Tell you what was a little confusing. The other day, I woke up actually pretty early, and there was a text on my phone from Bob GQ Bear. And usually he doesn't make a habit out of texting me in the middle of the night,
No.
So I jumped right on it and, what is this? And, lo and behold, he was in Vietnam and he'd taken a picture of I guess it's their version of the continental breakfast at the hotel he was staying at.
Yeah.
So they had an assortment of jams, jellies, and things. And right next to it, you guessed it, there was a nice big container. You would have been happy, Bri. There was the Vegemite.
Well, it tells you that lots of Australians and New Zealanders must go to that hotel, okay? Because the British probably wouldn't be seen dead eating Vegemite, okay?
Among others. Most Fastener people, as it turns out.
Only the adventurous ones, to their great benefit.
And you want to talk about confusing? There's a subject that is confusing. Why would anybody eat and enjoy that stuff? But you know what? To each his own, and you love it, so I guess I should stop knocking it.
Yes, you should.
All right, enough prattle. Let's get to a quick break, and when we get back, we'll be talking with Chapman Revercomb of Würth Revcar.
Right.
It's fully threaded.
Radio.
These guys aren't screwing around much. Brian and Eric, fully threaded radio, internet talk radio for the fastener industry.
Want to know when your BBI order is ready? Subscribe to Mobile Text Message to receive a notification when your order is available. We make it quick and easy to skip the wait. Speak to a Brighton Best representative to get notified by text or email today. Tested, tried, and true. We are Brighton Best International. To learn more about Brighton Best, visit us at www.brightonbest.com.
In continued efforts to improve the industry standard, Goebel Fasteners has developed a patented new multi-grip lock bolt system made completely from T304 stainless steel. In applications where an extensive grip range is needed and a consistent flush pin break to the collar is favorable, the Goebel T304 stainless steel lock bolt system is the new and improved standard in the market. Essentially, the T304 stainless steel lock bolt system's extensive grip range and various sizes can replace up to 14 sizes of the classic 6-groove locking fastener system. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
At Star Stainless, the sum of all we do is what we consider star quality. It's not just the quality of the products or the service we offer, but the overall approach to the way we do business. Star Stainless Screw Company is a division of Lindfast Solutions Group.
Coming to you live from a much larger desk drawer, this is Jake Davis with BTM Manufacturing, and you are listening to my friends Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
Hey, Bryce says here on LinkedIn news feed that inflation is lower than expected. Well, that's good. That's good news, huh?
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
It really is, you know. The good folks at LinkedIn always providing us a daily dose of alternative reality.
Well, it's probably not quite so alternative as other feeds, I think, but still.
Tell you about alternate reality. When we were in Vegas, now this is really not that big of a deal, but it struck me as really pretty funny at the time, and it's actually still kind of weird. It reminds me actually of the Mandela effect almost. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but when we were there, we were talking about the Orb, this great new attraction out there in Vegas, and everybody's talking about it on and on. And I actually first heard about it from my parents because when they made the decision to go out to Vegas, they started looking at all the attractions and stuff, and they started talking about it. This is months before the IFE, you know?
Yep.
And so we were just talking about the Orb here and there. My dad really wanted to go see it. And then once we got there, everybody in our aisle was talking about the Orb. And when we were waiting in line to go to the bash to get in, you know, I remember talking to Tim O'Keefe of GL Hewitt. I could have sworn, I mean, he was raving about the U2 concert that he and his wife saw the night before.
Right. No doubt.
Yeah, and I thought that we were referring to it as the Orb. I mean, you and I were talking about it as the Orb, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's not an alternate reality version of it. We were. So anyway, I was with a lot of people, and then come to find out afterwards, actually, I wound up going to dinner with a group of people, and Steve Ritchie from Spencer Products was in the group, and he referred to it as the Sphere, you know, and of course I corrected him.
Nice.
Right. Come to find out, that is the name of it. I mean, and it's so obvious, I never bothered to really check into it that deeply because it didn't seem like a thing, but I was chagrined. I did. I felt like I'd stepped out of an alternate reality.
Well, but all right, there are a lot more important things in the world than just using a synonym for a sphere. I mean, an orb means the same thing, doesn't it? It's exactly the same.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Bri, because I called Tim O'Keefe this morning and I wanted to, check my memory. And, he claims that he referred to the sphere at the time that we had that conversation I just referred to. And I'm sure it's true. It's probably just me projecting my memory onto it, but I could have sworn it was the orb. But he pointed out that an orb is a floating object and a sphere is a geometric shape. So there,
yeah, right. But that's not strictly true, because one of the pieces of regalia for royalty in England is an orb. That is not floating in nothing except the man's hand who's the king, okay?
Okay. Well, this whole definition may be a little pedantic and beside the point, but nevertheless, that was Tim's retort to my question. And I did a little searching. My mom had a theory because she was one of the culprits for steering me wrong originally, So I brought this to her attention. She said, I guess this thing's been in the works for many years, and they started construction of it in 19. And of course, COVID slowed the whole thing down. It just opened earlier this year. But she thought that the developer is kind of known to be a little sketchy, shall we say, or maybe sketchy is a bad word for it, but I don't know, sort of an outlier in some ways. And she thought that maybe it had been renamed. And at one point it was called the orb, but I wasn't able to find anything. But here's what I did find. In all these stories that I looked up, I really took this serious, Bri. I wanted to clear this confusion. Website, the Architect's Newspaper, there's a headline. The story's from October 30th, 2023. Headline, The Sphere Opens in Las Vegas. What does it mean for architecture? So the opening, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but the opening of the story refers to the cartoon, the children's show, SpongeBob SquarePants. Which,
okay.
Right, you and I are not that fluent in that particular piece of pop culture. However, apparently on that show, there was an object called the Orb of Confusion. And so the author of this story at one point says, now my latest orb is the sphere at the Venetian Resort in Las Vegas. How delicious is that? Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, I suppose we could get a little more precise in our definitions. My English teacher in New Zealand was an Oxford Don, and we were taught English in very, very large doses. And I always remember him explaining the difference between will and shall. And shall is a special form of English called imperative, which can only really be used by emperors. It means you must. I was listening to a recording of a Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito explaining that shall does not necessarily mean must. So I thought, well, this guy, he should know what shall is. Surely at the stage you're at the Supreme Court, you should know English. Another word that can mean different things, apparently.
Ever read the Ten Commandments? There's a good one.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole thing's been open to interpretation all these years. I never knew.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, anyway, I wound up offering to make a $10 bet with Steve Ritchie, and he didn't take me up on it because he's just a pure wholesome kind of guy, but we had a gentleman's bet on it for nothing in particular, and I guess he won that one. So you were right, Steve.
He didn't take it because he knew you were wrong.
He's a good man. Spencer Products. They only hire good people over there,
Yeah.
And speaking of good people, let's take a minute to tip our hats to the good people at the Midwest Fastener Association, who earlier this month honored a group of MWFA Hall of Fame inductees. They added 3 greats to the pantheon of MWFA fame this year, and they were Rich Pease of RK Precision Products, Bob O'Brien of Certified Products, and Bruce Wheeler, Star, 3 legends of the industry in the Midwest for sure.
Well, I remember Rich Pease was the guy who talked to us quite a bit when we first joined MWFA. It's 2007, I think that was.
Yes. I believe he was president at that time.
Yeah.
Either that or he was VP. I can't remember exactly. But in any case, he handed us our membership plaque when we were accepted into that fine association.
Right, which sits on the wall behind me at this moment still.
Congratulations to all 3 of you inductees. They had an awards banquet ceremony at that point, and it says here at MWFA contributed this year, hold on to your hat, $40,000 in their scholarship fund.
Wow, that's great. It's a great reason to go there.
All the associations have their focus, and the MWFA is always really concentrated on education.
And social activities.
Ah, yes, of course, social activities.
Right, and that could even be wine tastings and lots of other things, maybe bourbon tastings next time.
I seem to recall that in the mix also. We've got Chapman Revercomb coming up here in just a moment. Interesting conversation with him. He's just back from the annual Würth Industry Conference. Then after that, it's the Fastener News Report, and Hans Fuller will be joining Mike McNulty. By now, the word is pretty much out that the FDI took a nice jump above the 50 mark, which was good to see. And that was driven by the sales component of the FDI, Bry.
Okay.
Got a note here from Quinn Fredrickson, analyst over at Baird. Little detail I don't think they brought out in the conversation. Just thought I'd throw it out there before we cut over to Chapman. Quinn said, as far as the UAW strike goes, MSC told Baird that their auto-related sales were about 20% off in the August quarter. So that was a pretty good hit, and I haven't really heard too many fastener companies that I've talked to crying too hard. I think a lot of people are really wiping their brow, in relief that it was as short as it was.
Right. Well, it's not entirely over yet. There's a couple of holdouts apparently over the last 24 hours. But I talked to our good buddies at Perigee, and part of their business is the automotive. They're in Michigan. And they said that they hadn't really noticed much of a problem.
Let's hope that all gets wrapped up and everybody can live with the outcome, at least for a few years until the next round.
Yeah, right.
The confusion doesn't make it very easy to plan ahead with a lot of confidence, but that is what we are doing, and that is what Würth is doing. That's what they're known for, as they lead the industry in a lot of ways.
Yep.
So let's cut over to our first feature segment. Chapman Revercomb is CEO of Würth Revcar, part of Würth Industry North America, and of course, global powerhouse, the Würth Group. He's just back from the annual Würth Industry Conference in Europe, and he joins us now. Hi, Chapman. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me. Wanted to also congratulate you on your Fastener Hall of Fame award. I saw that come through.
Hey, much appreciated. Yeah, that was a trip. And, I know you've been involved in a few things that have kept you away from Vegas this year, so I didn't see you out there. And when we were first trying to set this recording session up, as a matter of fact, we both found ourselves in some unexpected, perhaps inadvertent home improvement projects.
Yeah, that can happen.
How'd yours go?
It's a tough subject. We had to get a new can of paint to finish the trim in my home office, and it didn't match the original can of paint. So I'm still battling, but we're close.
Yeah, I know how those things go. I tried fixing a toilet with a real simple handle repair, wound up having to rebuild the whole thing. So anyway, we're here now, and that's the way that home ownership is. So we were talking a little bit the other day about your experience at the annual conference, and I think there's plenty that fully threaded listeners can take away from hearing about that. How the big leaguers do things and everything. But before we get into it, I hope you can update us on the new cutting-edge facility you've been building out there in Roanoke for Würth Revcar. You gave us a picture about how it was going in the early going last time you were on the podcast, which was episode 172, believe it or not. What's the latest on your new facility, Chapman?
Well, one, that feels like yesterday. And if you think a home improvement project can go sideways, I'll challenge you on a renovation of a 387,500 square foot distribution and office environment. But we're over the hump on it. We moved all of the office staff in, which has gotten to be quite a big team for us there in a headquarters environment. We moved that team back in the beginning of the summer, and we're still working to consolidate all the various warehouse operations that will ultimately be in the building there. But we should be done completely consolidating all of our Roanoke logistics and warehouse operations here in the first week of January. So it's been quite a project, to say the least. But the hardest part's getting in there for sure. And we were able to, I think, do a really nice renovation on an existing building that's far larger in scale than anything we would have done building from scratch. So we've got 60,000 square feet of office space, which is quite a lot, paired with 330,000 plus or minus square feet of warehouse space. So we're excited. It's a unique opportunity. We've now got a pretty extensive list of projects in front of us to fully kind of move in and showcase our automation potential and leverage some of the information and best practices we have from the Würth Group in Europe, specifically on an automation and process standpoint.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very exciting what you just described, but you might even be underselling it, aren't you? Because you have put a ton of high-tech automation into this new facility. I mean, what's the most exciting part of it? I mean, I know there are many, but can you just share one with us that you're really psyched up about?
For sure. I will. And we've been living and breathing it for going on a year plus now. So it's kind of old news, but also very, very exciting. We've got, we have a number of, we'll call them quote unquote automation implementations scheduled to go into effect really from now until beginning of 2025. And a lot of those investments and improvements build on one another to be able to fully capture the productivity gains that we're looking for. The kind of end state of this first phase, which is most exciting for me, is automated storage and retrieval system that will pump out, probably when we're using it at full speed, around 550 plus, black Kanban bins an hour. And that's our core business, is running Kanban VMI programs. So when we can really sling those things out of there, it'll be pretty exciting to have that kind of growth capacity to take on new customers and support our existing customers really throughout the whole market. So that's the exciting kind of end game of phase one for me, is seeing that come online and driving the process improvement right to the fulfillment side for our customers.
So to refresh folks' memories, Würth Revcar is known for data-driven VMI and supply chain security. As a matter of fact, last time you were on with us, you were talking about supply chain transparency, and that is where you began telling us about this new facility. And you say that it's a long project. You're obviously going to complete this consolidation, but the full implementation is going to be in 2025. That's what you said?
Yeah, and that's I've learned over this project, conservative dates are better to give. So yeah, we'll have this first phase wrapped up by then, but we're already planning much farther out as far as our kind of capital investments and different solutions that we want to put into place. But this first phase is concrete, on order, software developments in process, and we'll be rocking and rolling here in the next, little over a year, which in fastener distribution years is like a couple weeks.
Tell me that. You've got the facility and the technology covered. It sounds pretty clear. So what about the headcount at this facility? I mean, with something that huge, you must be ramping up.
Yeah, we are. And the folks who have been to our old facilities in Roanoke will get this joke, but we finally have enough parking spots for everybody to park. So we've got over 400 parking spots. So we feel optimistic about our ability to add talent. But on a more serious note, it is a huge upgrade. And that was one of our initial, I would say, objectives with the facility and how we approached building out the office and just general environment, was that, I think it's not a secret to anybody that the last few years have kind of changed the way we look at talent acquisition and retention. really retaining and training employees for the future. And we've put a lot of consideration into how we set the building up, from furniture to general sustainability topics, EV chargers, a lot of collaborative conference space, and just try to make it a really nice, modest, nothing, we're not trying to take on Google for the Office of the Year award, but a nice spot to work where we can attract and retain some really good talent for the future. So we think that's going to be as much of a battleground as anything as we go forward. So we're pretty happy about the opportunities there as well, and ability to train and have events, whether it's a tabletop show or negotiation training or whatever it may be. We've got the facilities to do that in-house now, which is really great.
You mentioned EV parking or stations. I mean, how many of your new parking spaces are equipped with EV chargers?
Well, they're kind of expensive, so not 400. But we've got a handful in Roanoke, and it's actually something we've been working on across all of the industry companies for the Würth Group in the United States. So whether you visit us out in Indianapolis or Minnesota or here in Richmond, you'll see some more opportunities for the EV charging for sure, as well as solar power and that kind of thing. So it's something we're trying to embrace and maybe be a little ahead of your typical nut and bolt distributor on that stuff.
Well, Würth Group is well known for being just that, and you're also known for long-range planning. So let's switch gears now and talk about the Würth Industry Conference. This is an annual planning and company networking event that you were telling me. There were people from over 40 countries there, so this was pretty big. And, of course, Würth has a huge global footprint. What can you tell us about this year's conference?
Yeah, it was good. It was the first time we've had a chance to get everybody together in a few years with COVID and travel restrictions and just the general environment. So it was a really good opportunity. And when we look at this specific group of folks from really all of the industry specific business, so we're not targeting kind of ancillary business models to attend. It's all people that do what we do and really support industrial manufacturing globally. And I think that's we're very confident within Würth Industry that's probably one of our biggest market differentiators, is that when you talk about a true global footprint for industry business, which is what a lot of our target customers tell us they want, we're one of the few, if not the only group that can do that. So we're excited about that, but we don't take it for granted either, and make a lot of efforts to communicate across the different regions, whether it's EMEA, APAC, or the Americas, and to be able to get together and kind of share best practices around a core, really consistent core operating model is pretty impactful. Certainly plenty for us to learn during those few days, that's for sure.
So where exactly was this held and how long was it?
Sure. So it's a full day of conferencing, as well as a lot of ancillary meetings before and after, whether it's facility tours or conferences or plenary sessions. And it's typically held in Bad Mergentheim at the Würth Industry Campus there, which is, I would say, one of, if not the kind of flagship automated central distribution locations in the world for what we do. It's pretty wild facility, and a lot of opportunity to learn and see best practices and collaborate together with a lot of global expertise.
I can imagine. It sounds very exciting, and I'm sure you came out of that turbocharged. Did you notice any kind of a theme? I mean, was there a title for this event, or what was your takeaway on that?
So title is Industry Day. So the focus is, again, on, our goal is very clear within Würth Industry, and that's to be the global market leader in what we do. So that was very clear underlying theme, and I think it's fitting for our market position. But some core focuses for us, really, at least for me, my big two takeaways were, and I touched on some of it earlier with our building, but that talent development and the war for talent is only going to become more and more important. And how we manage and give those people opportunities is something that, takes all of our commitment to make sure that that's prioritized. And then the other main takeaway was the opportunities in front of us. We talked about building automation in the new building, but also just our ability to kind of use some of the, I would say, emerging or developing AI solutions for just process automation and allow our people and talented individuals to focus on the right tasks. If it's a highly repeatable, routine fly ball, maybe we can have a more automated solution to handle that. And that's something we've really been looking at and investing for a long time at the Würth Group. But just like everyone else, all of a sudden it's all picking up a lot of steam. So that's a pretty exciting topic to consider. Some of it's over my head, but I really like it.
Join the club. Yeah. This stuff was all down the road. Now all of a sudden it's like, yep, here it is.
Yeah, it's wild.
Sure is. So talent retention and development and AI, two themes. Now that's kind of interesting to me because we tend to focus obviously here on the North American market, but you're saying that this was a theme at this very international conference. So that idea of building and retaining talent is pretty much organization wide and worldwide, it seems. Does that seem fair?
Absolutely. And I think I think we're positioned at the Würth Group probably to be a little bit ahead of the curve on that for a number of reasons. But when you look at the labor market that they deal with, really in Western Europe or Central Europe, Western Europe, and Germany, it's a little bit different than what we deal with here, and that focus has been more to the forefront, I think, for a little bit longer, really in Europe. So it's something that we've kind of had the opportunity to grow into along with the Würth Group here in the United States. But we have a heavy focus on people development, personnel development, talent management, and really, global mobility as well. It's something that we really work to take advantage of those opportunities.
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt to have the name recognition of the Würth Group when you're trying to talk somebody into coming on board, I'm sure. One thing the leader has in their pocket,
It helps. We're hoping that commitment and focus on, a positive workplace and some of the career development opportunities and attributes that seem to be becoming more and more important to just really everybody as you go about your kind of professional life, is having clear career opportunities and organization committed to helping you achieve them. Something we recognize as a trend that's not going anywhere.
You're right. So many times at events like this, you have a chance to contribute, perhaps to make a presentation of some kind and hone your own skills. Did you get a shot at that this time around, Chapman?
I did not. Most of my presenting was done in a smaller environment, more kind of results-based than in a kind of informational forum, although I did get to participate in quite a few interactive workshops where we got to be a part of it, but I did not get to join the presentation party, which is probably for the best. The nerves were already pretty high in that big environment in front of all those people.
Yeah, I could see that. I kind of have in my imagination this room that looks like the UN, with all these delegates from all over the place with headphones on and stuff. But I'm sure that's pretty far off. But,
all you have to do is add battling jet lag in there, and it's an even more daunting room to present to.
Well, you were telling me that one of our buddies had a shot at making a presentation, though. Wasn't it D. Ward? Didn't you say he was up there on stage at one point?
Oh, yeah. D was a heavily anticipated presenter. One of the main reasons everyone was kind of ramped up for D's presentation because he got to do it in his home language rather than, the entire conference in the official language of the Würth Group internationally is in English. So most of the presenters had to, work really hard to convey their thoughts in a very professional and good clip in a foreign language. But D had the opportunity to do his in his mother tongue, which is made a lot of the other presenters pretty jealous, I'm sure.
Yeah, nice advantage to have when you're up there in front of all these people you need to impress.
Absolutely, and D took advantage of his topic. It was he was presenting on internal communication and the use of video in podcast as a communication tool and how to reach different audiences within the organization, especially with all the, with kind of the geographic footprint that they have within his business, but we really have across the whole United States. So it was a very relevant topic for sure. And I was proud of D because he used this topic to basically avoid having to do any speaking in front of everyone and just kind of hit the play button on a greatest hits of greatest hits of some of his best communications.
So he was pre-recorded and all ready to go.
It was a pro move. But no, I mean, seriously, I thought it was a really good message, and it kind of fit along those themes I was talking about earlier with how do we keep an engaged workforce and how do we make sure that those important messages as leaders that we want to deliver get there. I mean, I can send emails and newsletters till we're blue in the face, but that's not what everybody wants to get sometimes. So it's great to have different options to reach different people, and really good message and kind of good best practice from D and his team. So it was good, even though he didn't have to stand up there and do a whole lot of speaking, which I was also impressed with.
Well, that's the kind of thinking that has gotten him to the place he is. So hats off to him. He's a little sneaky, but I guess we'll have to take it.
There you go.
Well, and I agree with you also about the need for multiple vehicles for getting messages out. Being in something of a communication business myself, I concur entirely. And so, you got to use every tool that's in the box. Yeah,
doesn't matter how good the message is if it doesn't get to every inbox, so to speak. So that's something we're working on for sure. I think I hate to say it's, I hate to hit too hard on the changing workplace demographic, because I still consider myself at the young end of the spectrum, even if someone pointed out the other day that might not be true anymore. But it's definitely something we've got to continue to work on and improve as we go forward.
Yeah, don't worry about the age thing right now, Chapman. You can still be
gray hair in my beard.
Well, you're a senior member of the YFP. That's what we call them here.
There you go.
Well, while we're on the topic of messaging, let me just say right now that I'd like to thank you and the Würth Group for your support and all the good work you've done with the Fastener Training Institute. That's a message that needs to get out there more, and we're trying to kick that along. Würth is a sustaining member, and the FTI is a vital part of this industry, so you're doing good work there.
Absolutely. It takes a long time and a lot of effort and really, a lot of mistakes, honestly, to learn the nuances of what we do and what we supply our customers across the industry. So we're doing our best to keep bringing the next wave of people along and have opportunities to understand it.
We've been speaking with Würth Revcar CEO Chapman Revercomb. Learn more about Würth and what he's up to, including the new facility out there in Roanoke. That's at worthindustry.com. I'd like to thank you for joining us on the podcast today, Chapman.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll catch you soon. And we'll catch you folks on the other side of this quick break. It's Fully Threaded.
At Würth Industry North America, we know that in today's world, you need a supply chain partner that you can depend on. We provide the products you need to keep your business moving. Data-driven inventory management solutions, industry-leading technology, and the global stability of the Würth Group, combined with an unrelenting commitment to local partnership. Discover superior supply chain security at www.worthindustry.com.
Fastener Distributors. 3Q Inc. is the best-kept secret for all of your fastener needs. 3Q is the premier sourcing solution for the fastener distribution market. 3Q offers stock and release programs on all special fastener products, from flat washers, lock nuts, cold form specials, to bolts and screws. Looking to add the highest quality line of self-drilling screws? Check out the pull-tight line of serrated self-drilling screws. They bite. Distributors who know of 3Q wonder how they ever operated before without the high level of service and quality support provided by 3Q and their staff. The number 3, the letter Q, 3Q Inc. Quality products, quality service, quality customers. Welcome to 3Q.
Since 1905, Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been supplying the world with high-quality fasteners. Our standard product lines include weld fasteners, braided weld screws, leg levelers, self-clinching hardware, clevis pins, rivet nuts, and various other fastener lines, allowing us to support virtually all types of industries. BuckeyeFasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, more than just weld.
This is Leo Core, editor of Distributors Link magazine, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
And it's the news segment, many people's favorite part of the show. Brian is caught up in the FCH data lab at the moment. Fear not, however, we've got Rosa Hearn with us. She's everywhere, and now she's back on the podcast. Back-to-back episodes, Rosa. I'm glad you could jump in.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Eric. I really appreciate you taking the time to get me back on. Thank you.
Now, this doesn't count towards the promised rematch with you and Matt either, I have to say.
Okay, I can't wait for it. But one of the reasons why I'm in here is because I wanted to talk about the webinar that's coming up at NFDA.
Yes, I knew about that, and I'm glad you're here. I actually just saw a promo for that fly by on LinkedIn, so we've got that. Now, McNulty will be talking with Hans Fuller in a few moments on the Fastener News Report, and until then, we're going to chew on this AI webinar you have coming up. Tell us all about it, Rosa.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I can't believe I even got asked to be part of this panel. I mean, there's Melissa Patel from Field Fasteners who's going to talk about BI, which that blew my mind when I heard about it. There's Alex Goldberg who's going to talk about machine learning and manufacturing and automation, which that is fascinating. And then Lonnie, she comes from the IT world. She's a tech person. And so, I'm sure she's going to bring so much skills and knowledge to this thing.
With Smart Cert, you mean, right?
Yeah, from Smart Search, yeah. So I was really, pleasantly surprised that they invited me. And that's because I started posting on LinkedIn about AI. Every time I learned something, I actually would post it online.
I noticed actually that this blurb that I saw on LinkedIn, it says, no, hang on, did you write this? It says that it was created with ChatGPT.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's like, I talk to it like a normal person. Most people talk about ChatGPT or any of these chat things, like asking a question. Well, that's Google. You know what I mean? Like anybody can ask a question on Google. The whole point of the chat is to actually have a conversation. And when you actually have a conversation, it's going to have a conversation back to you and the way you want it and the way you want to deal with it, which I found really fascinating. And that's why I wanted to show everybody like, hey, like this can actually, talk to you. But more than anything, I wanted people to know, like, everybody has already played with ChatGPT, okay, or some type of, chat situation. But they know it as like, okay, marketing, soft skills. They don't realize how they can use it for their business or how they can use it for, the fastener industry. And that's what I wanted to bring. I wanted to bring, what I've been showing Brighton Best, what Brighton Best has been showing me, and what we can bring into this industry.
Well, way to eat your own dog food on this one, because it was a really good post that it wrote. And I was kind of shocked when I came to the end and it said it was written by ChatGPT. Now, did you also do the graphic using that tech or how was that done?
Well, this is something that people don't realize. Most of the programs that are out there, like Canva and, all these softwares, they have AI already in it. So all you have to tell them exactly what you want, and it's going to pop out what you need. So, I'm very simple. I say, hey, this is what I need. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. Because I'm not a graphic designer. Even though I run the marketing department here at Brighton Best, I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not your typical marketer where, I went to school and did all this. I actually have to learn, hands-on. And thank goodness for AI, man, because this is making me look so smart. This is making me do my job so fast. And, I'm really excited over it. I get the fear of it. I understand people are like, oh, it's going to lose my job. All this is happening. But the truth is, it's like, there's a difference between weak AI and strong AI. Weak AI is like what you see at Alexa, what you see at Siri or ChatGPT for that matter. Strong AI is pretty much like Jarvis from Iron Man. That's kind of what people are really afraid of more than anything. And I'm so glad, now there's restrictions with the executive order that Biden signed. Now we're going to have like safety, and because they're trying to get on top of it versus, trying to be reactive, and they're trying to be very active about this. So I'm really excited over that.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother matter, I think, for another segment, Rosa. But I get your point, and let's clue listeners in that the event we're speaking of, this AI webinar, being sponsored by the NFDA, featuring Rosa and the other list of superstars that you mentioned. It's happening on November 30th. It's online. It's 11 a.m. Pacific time. And one of the cool things, absolutely free. How does the NFDA do it? I don't know, but it is. So this is going to be great. And now, are you moderating it, or are you a panelist? How's that all set up?
No, I'm a panelist. Kelly Charles from Simpson Special is moderating it. And if you're not able to catch it, they're actually going to post it on their NFDA YouTube channel. So you can watch it on YouTube. But I really highly suggest to actually join, because that's where you ask questions. This is where you get to see the people who are really interested in AI. So when you go to these associations events, you can say, hey, I remember you were in there. Can we talk about this? Or what do you guys think about this? And I don't think people realize how important association events are. I mean, I realize sometimes, it's expensive, or you're taking people off the desk to actually, go to these things. But if it wasn't for these events, I wouldn't know, Melissa Patel. I wouldn't know Alex Goldberg. I wouldn't even know Lonnie. And that to me has opened my world so much that I really highly suggest people to attend at least the free webinars, or even any webinar.
I can't disagree with any of that. I have had the chance to participate in lots of association events all across the country over the years. And every time I do, I say, man, am I glad I did that. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Speaking of, the stuff that you've done, I know that you were in a panel of AI at the Midwest Fastener Association. Tell me about that, because I didn't get to go. I'm really interested in how that went.
Yeah. Fastener Week. That was back in August in, outside of Chicago. MWFA always does a great job. Now, your comrade, GH3, was the moderator of that one. And it was me and Jason from Thunder Tech. He's kind of an outside guy, but he knows a lot about AI deployment. And he's kind of a marketing guy as well. Plus Brandy from InSequel. And, of course, SmartCert never loses a chance to get out there. But it was the other dynamic duo member, Lyndon. Yeah. And, we covered some I think the watershed is really what we did. And then I got a chance to really tee off on some of the darker side at the end, which, let's face it, it's always looming out there, and there are a lot of opinions on it. But one thing that we weren't able to do, and I'm hoping you will during this NFDA panel, is kind of a real-time demo, really, of what you're doing. For example, I'd like to see you write one of these letters on screen. That would be, I think, helpful for a lot of people, because I tell you, Rosa, so many people came up afterwards and they really wanted to see practically how do they actually go about utilizing some of these tools.
Well, I think there's so many tools out there. I'm actually going to try to teach you and show you how to get these tools, where to get these tools, and the reviews of these tools. So that way you'll have a better understanding of what you want. You can actually grab at at an easy rate.
Cool. Well, again, that is November 30th, and that's the NFDA AI webinar. Is there a pre-registration required for this, or what do folks need to do?
Yes, because they have to get the Zoom link. So they can just go to the nfda-fasteners.org website and then just register. It's free, so there's no payment, anything. They do ask if you want to sponsor, but you don't have to. We just want you to join.
Outstanding. Well, we appreciate being able to support stuff like that. And that's the way the fastener industry goes around, especially the media side of it and the association side of it. So thanks for doing this, Rosa. You're always very generous with your contributions.
No, thank you for having me.
Well, we rely on it too. And at this moment, I'll point out that the Fastener News Report, which is coming right up, has been sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics for a long, long time. Many thanks to them. And the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio, Brighton Best International, Global Fasteners, and Star Stainless. Love saying that, Rosa, and love having you on the podcast. Again, when you were on last episode, I mentioned, it doesn't count. This time doesn't count for what we talked about last time with Matt. We'll get you back on. Not sure when, hopefully early in the next season. But thanks for being here now. And you were telling me before we turned the mic on, there's a bucket list item that you had, which you might be able to help me out with.
Yes. I always wanted to do the introduction of Mike McNulty. I don't know why, but I really wanted to do it. So I'm really excited. Will you let me? Can I do it?
Oh, come on. It's nobody better than you. Thanks for being here. Why don't you take it away?
Oh, thank you. And now, with news about screws you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Rosa. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. The Texas Rangers now have a World Series championship trophy to go along with their great American nickname. There are 2 turkeys in my freezer, piles of leaves on the tree lawn, pumpkins on the porch, and Christmas music on the radio, but I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, Hans Fuller, Managing Director at Fuller Metric Parts Limited, joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on Endries International, as well as newsmaker headlines from Houston Precision Fasteners, Fastenal, Dyson, General Fasteners, Martin Supply, K-Max, Brighton Best International, Trimass, Optimus, and more. On the back page report, we're going to talk about the electrical grid. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
When price is a big concern and you don't have high tensile strength requirements to worry about, ever think to yourself, why not plastic? Hey everyone, it's Heidi from Volt Industrial Plastics. Next time you need to find a solution that requires keeping costs as low as possible, give Volt a call and put our team of skilled customer service representatives to work for you. Plastic fasteners can make sense on a wide range of applications that you might not have considered before and provide your customers with big savings. So the next time you have trouble with price and delivery, just think, why not plastic? From everyone here at Volt Industrial Plastics, thanks for another great year. And you know the website, it's voltplastics.com.
We all know this is about winning the war on notebooks. We can't do that without the ability to offer hard-to-find metric fasteners, manufactured to ISO and DIN standards. Delivered fast, faster, or as fast as your star-spangled man with a plan. Every quote you request, Eurolink fulfills. Help keep America's workers armed and ready with any metric fastener in the multiverse. With Eurolink, you get what you want when you want it. Eurolink, hard-to-find metric fasteners, delivered.
Mike McNulty.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for October 2023 improved to 52.6 versus 48.5 in the previous month, and only the second 50 or above result in the last 8 months. The forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, also improved to 47.1 versus 44.8 the previous month. This was the 15th straight month of sub-50 FLIs, but the best result of the year. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insights on these results, we talked to Hans Fuller. He's the Managing Director at Fuller Metric Parts Limited. Hello, Hans. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on this the first time and to give my 2 cents worth, although we'll have a bit of a Canadian perspective, but that's all I got.
Right, I should have said the North American fastener distribution industry. But sometimes my Canadian friends say, hey, it's not just America. It's North America. So anyways, as you mentioned, this is your first time on the show, and I'm glad to have you here, and we're looking forward to getting your insight. And so what do you think about the latest FDI and FLI results?
Looking at it, I think, and talking to, I'm also president of Pac-West, and talking to our members, and I think the overall outlook, it has been fairly positive. Everybody, we're basically corroborating the numbers that you're getting. Up here in Canada, again, we seem to be doing all right. So I think, it's good that we're trending the right way.
Yeah, the improvement was, tempted to say dramatic, but 52.6 versus 48.5 is a nice jump, and we've been staying below 50 for most of the year, so it is good to see it back up. And that was driven by the sales, employment, and delivery numbers all improved, while pricing dropped down, and inventories came in mixed. One inventory result was up, and the other one was down. So the other one was flat. We had respondent inventories dropped, and customer inventories stayed flat. So, any insights there?
My thoughts have always been, especially on the supplier side, that I think we're going to see a soft demand just from the point that a lot of people bought too much inventories and they're burning it off right now. And they're, some of these parts that you may have seen, all of a sudden you don't see them for like 2 or 3 months because people had, instead of having 2 months worth of stock on hand, all the A's and B's, they bought like 8 months. So I think we're in a way in a little bit of a weird position where we, as a supplier and importer, you may think it's not as good, but actually down on the level where people are using the parts, they are still using them just as much.
Yeah, you got to get through that extra inventory to get the sales back up. Yep. And I'm just noticing that the respondent inventory number is the lowest of the year here, and the sales number was the highest. So those seem to be maybe correlate together a little bit for maybe having this good month or better month than the previous one. Then let's see, what about pricing? Pricing dropping, is that obviously something people don't like to see who are selling the parts, but on the buying?
I'm not sure I'd even say dropping. I think it's normalizing because there was a lot of weird stuff happening where cost of goods on fasteners went from 5 to 8 points to 30 points. Because of the container prices, and then all kinds of craziness. And inland freight is still bad. Inland freight is not very competitive. And so I'm seeing it, I think, more of it getting back to maybe where things should be, more, where we're going, and, we're back in the tens for cost of freight of the parts, not crazy anymore.
Let's jump into the 6-month outlook, and that came out as almost a pretty even bell curve, with 29% of respondents expecting things to be better 6 months from now, 45% expecting it the same, and 26% expecting things to be worse. That compares to 23%, 57%, and 20% last time. So we had some people moved from the no change into the improved area, and some people moved over to the worse. So kind of balanced out. Where do you come down?
I'm pessimistically optimistic.
Okay. That's a good combination.
It's been so weird as far as, what's happening in the market, especially up here in Canada. From what they're telling us is we're kind of a little bit ahead on the, I don't know if they would call it a downturn or recession. I think the way our mortgages work, we can't lock in past 5 years. So I think we have a lot of people are going to renew in the next, within the next couple of years. So that's really putting a downturn on the economy, because we can't do the 30-year at whatever mortgage is, like we have 5 years the max. And then so that's going to be difficult. Talking to our customers, I think no one's crying, but everyone's kind of a little wants to be careful. We're doing fine, except it's just, everybody wants to be quite careful with going forward.
Yeah, we're reaching the last. We're in the last 2 months of less than 2 months left in the year, and the feared recession really hasn't raised its head. But inflation has been a problem, and you mentioned mortgage rates and interest rates for everything just decades high. So that has to have an impact, I think.
And here's the other point that I think about a little bit is that we've been so busy. If I look 3 years, 4 years back, and you look at the numbers back then, and you say, okay, would you be okay with doing 5% less next year? I'd be like, maybe 5 or 10. I'd be okay with that, because
right.
We were too busy. We couldn't provide very good customer service. The warehouse was becoming a mess because we were just struggling to do a good job. So all things being equal, if we were to do a little bit less, I'd still be fine with it when you look at it 3 years ago, because you can't necessarily base what's happening today on that recessionary period of supply shortages and all those other things. So I don't know if a recession just means no growth for a little bit, and if we have a soft landing and get this inflationary, pressures a little bit under control, because all that money that's in the market has to go somewhere. If we can ride it out and not have a big bang, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's probably what's happening. Let's move on to we've got some commentary that respondents have sent in, and I'll go through and read some of these comments, and feel free to jump in with some of your reaction. And the first one is, I would say we've got a little bit of mixed commentary again this time. That seems to have been a trend lately. The first comment is, quote, "I'm beginning to be a bit more confident that the long-promised recession isn't coming," end quote. That's what we just talked about. Next is, "The economy seems to be causing an increased demand for products within our niche market." How about that? Do you see any niche areas that are doing better than others?
I think our business, when we hit a recessionary period, we sell different stuff. We sell stuff to fix things. Where if you're hitting when things are good, you get more into the manufacturing side. So we kind of we sell a little bit more weird, wonderful stuff. I don't know if I could say yes or no to that, but to the other point. One guy I really like is Christopher Thornburg, our economist that we always have him at Pac-West. And he basically said, we're not going to have a big recession, because if you look at the underlying numbers, they're still good. The U.S. economy is in good shape. It's not like the housing crisis and all that other stuff. It's just that the money that fed through into the market was just too much, and it had to go somewhere. You had all these increased prices, and if you're riding that out and not cause a big crash, then that's going to be okay. And so I really do see what's happening is what he kind of talked about. So I'm a big fan of his, and I'm kind of think he made the right call on that side.
Yeah, that's good insight. The next comment is related to the United Auto Workers strike, which has caused some temporary headwinds this month, but it should be seemingly eliminated going forward if these agreements go through and are ratified. The quote is, quote, "UAW strike has slowed shipments to automotive Tier 1 and Tier 2 customers. Industrial segment has been consistent for several months. RFQ activity for new business remains steady." Any personal experience with the strike?
I have no insight. Don't deal directly with automotive, so
you're a lucky man.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I know some people that just stay completely clear of it, but it's
some of my customers deal with the Tier 2s and all that, and yeah, it's a difficult business to be in.
Yeah, they can be demanding. So, but big volume. So,
yeah.
Let's see. We had some people talking about consistency and steadiness, and others talking about softness. The next quote is, "Trend sales are not strong but remain steady. Slow growth as expected. We finished the year as forecasted. Unsure what to expect in Q1 of 2024 to set a path forward." And the next comment is, "Very steady, good revenue train this year, but lower than last year and slightly lower profits than last year." Kind of ties in what you were saying, is that it's down, but from the high points, but still a pretty good spot.
And the other thing I'm looking at is, and what I'm thinking about is, when you look at last year, a lot of times you're running overtime, you have people coming on the weekend, your staff's getting burned out, you're forced to spend a whole bunch more money. That maybe, even though you have a little less revenue, you have a little less margin. At the end of the day, you might actually come out ahead, because you're not having a whole, some of your extra expenses may be down also, the overtime and all that. So we're finding a little bit that it's not as consistent, that where we'll be all of a sudden, beginning of the month, the week is just, no one, going like, "Oh, what's going on?" The phones aren't ringing, nothing's coming in. You're like, "Oh my goodness, the sky's falling." And then the end of the month, you're like, "Oh, well, how did that happen?" So it's not as consistently busy, but yet I would still say quite good.
Well, that's good. We've got 2 more comments. These are maybe a little bit more on the soft side. "Smaller manufacturers are not planning ahead for stock delays. Big key accounts are still doing well, but smaller accounts have fallen off." And then the final quote, "Expectations of higher activity in 6 months is due to new business, not due to increases in current customers. Overall, we are seeing a softening in activity." Kind of the mixed bag. Go ahead.
I think that's fair. I think it's also different markets, different segments. In the market, you might have, some are doing still really quite well. Others are softening and again burning off inventory. And I think it's just also the attitude. Everyone's a little more careful. Before it was just buy. Who cares about price? Just buy. Well, now purchasers have time to shop around again, it was nice when they didn't. So
well, You take what comes to you and you do the best you can.
It's a circle. It just keeps, although we haven't seen like what we went through. I haven't seen that before in my 30 plus years of being in this business, that it went that nutty, but it's always been a, up and down type of business.
Very good. So, it's your first time on the show. Give you a chance to talk about what's going on at Fuller Metric Parts, as well as the Pac-West and you. I know you guys were down at the IFE show, and we'll get into that. But go ahead.
Okay, let's start with Pac-West. So we have a new board got elected. We have some great new members. Great new board members. We have some younger board members, which is awesome. We have some good ideas coming in. Next year, we only have the one show. We got some feedback from our members and decided that next year there seems to be a little bit of convention burnout because there were so many things happening and it's getting so expensive to do it. So we thought, let's do one really good one and give them a break. And then next year, we'll see what happens. So we have Anaheim coming up, and I'm really excited about the lineup. We have Thornburg's back. We have a session on AI and how it relates to our industry. We have Carmen's doing some stuff, and I really like the lineup of speakers that we have. Excited about it. It's a tabletop show. That's always brings a great attendance. It's in Anaheim again. Great location, really nice hotel. You can have lots of restaurants in walking distance, and we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, that's in March 6th to 8th, 2024, and people want to check it out, they could go to pac-west.org.
And the other thing which we're doing, and in November, members of other fastener associations can sign up at the member rate, and it's a great deal. And especially even if you want to have a tabletop, whatever, you get the same deal. So if you're thinking of coming, I would say, hey, sign up and come on down. It's
now's the time.
Now's the time to do it. Maybe one more little plug. I think remember the Fastener Training Institute, FTI. They do, they're always doing a great job. And Pac-West obviously works very closely with them and does some scholarships. And we had Fastener Training Week, I think. Is it coming up in LA, or is it still ahead? That's always.
I think it's coming up in December. Let me take.
Coming up. I think that's just such a good thing to have somebody that was gone through that process, and we use their training internally quite a bit. We use it for onboarding, and I know I was talking to Joe. They're putting on a couple more little things that I was asking for. One of the big things was I wanted a really simple. I wouldn't say fasteners for dummies, but I just want to don't talk about specs. Just like if I hire a guy who knows nothing about fasteners, have a course, something that they can sit there for an hour, and after the fact, come out of there with at least knowing what a hex nut is and what a rivet is, and just some real basic understanding. I think that's going to be very useful. So what I like is they do a great job. They really take suggestions from the industry. Work with everybody. So kudos to FTI.
Yeah, they do a good job. And I looked up their Fastener Training Week in Los Angeles, California is December 4th through the 8th. And the introductory class, I think the one you're talking about is a Fastening 101. Is that it?
Yeah, there's Fastening 101. And I think they're putting on another one that's even more basic than that. So we're not, we have Carmen's one of the best guys out there. He's amazing. His knowledge into the standards and all that. But sometimes you just, when you start putting acronyms out there and people are they're just like,
wait a minute, slow down.
What's the IFI and the ASTM and the IFI and the ISO? It's like a lot of acronyms. So
Fastener Basics, that's it. 3-day training. That's
just keep it simple for the
don't
for
talk
the
about
entry
hydrogen
level.
embrittlement or
No. Metallurgical structures and all that other stuff. That's not gonna austenitic and
no. Yeah, right. It's like perlite. Wait a minute. So that.
So
So that's Pac-West, and what about at Fuller Metric?
Well, Fuller, so we've worked a lot lately on data. A lot of really trying to get our web data, get our e-commerce stuff up to par. We've probably now have something like 65,000 active SKUs that we don't necessarily all stock, but we've partnered with companies in Europe and companies in Asia that we really leverage their inventories into what we can offer to our customers. And we can quote that basically the same. We have all the inventory and price information online. So we've worked very hard on broadening what we stock so that you can get the weird and wonderfuls, even if you need them in the next day or whatever. We can get to you very quickly. Even though the U.S. market is not really necessarily what we would see a key market, we do have a decent amount of business, and we ship out of Kent, Washington. So we import it into the U.S., and Kent is a little shipping location for us. Yeah, and working hard, doing a lot of interesting things. And the one other thing that we're excited about, we have the master distribution for Canada, and I'm not sure how we're going to leverage that, if we're going to do something in the US too, for the Boomax line of stainless. And they do some really interesting stuff. I'm kind of like, they have a 12.9 equivalent stainless steel that's like a 316 on the chemical side and a 12.9 on the hardness side. So they go from like an 8.8, 10.9, 12.9. The 12.9 is a duplex material, and they also are making the product in Imperial. We're just getting together with them, figuring out what we're going to stock and all that, but we're actually going to stock the product here in Canada. So it's the first thing I'm kind of excited about as far as fasteners goes for a long time. That's a little bit different.
Good technology with those guys.
Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. And when you look at some of the issues where you do want high strength fasteners, and you're working on marine, or you're working in submarines, and hopefully not carbon fiber submarines, you may need stuff like that. So we're that it does solve some design issues and all that. So we're gonna make it available to the distribution market, but also we're going to support with them to our distributors and the end users on the engineering side, make that available to the general market.
You mentioned the website, which is fullerfasteners.com. And if you go to the brands list, you can pull down the menu. And I'm looking at the Boomax, and their tagline is known as the strongest stainless steel bolt in the world. It's pretty good.
Yeah. They're kind of, their motto is, we start where everybody else stops.
And you got some other good brands there too. I recognize Spiral, Vocal Cutting Tools, YFS Sockets, and Holochrome Fasteners. So encourage the listeners to check it out.
The Holochrome, we do that in Canada. We basically were the master distributors, so we do carry some inventory for them.
Good. Now, I mentioned the Las Vegas show, IFE, and then you guys had a pretty nice exhibit. One of my favorites was the Canadian Bolt Bar, and I recognize you had some Boomax signs, some of your other principal signs there. So who came up with that idea?
Well, Trevor and I were sitting in a bar 3 years back, and during COVID, we finally got to go out, and we said, why don't we do something a little different? And Trevor always has very good ideas. So we said, let's do it different. Let's just make a hangout that people can just come and relax. And, it's not that we don't want to sell, but we want to just make it so that it's going to be, just a good place to hang out and, spend some time with us. And yeah, it works out great. I think we've had some really good conversations, and it's all about building some contacts and, a long-term game so people, know what we do, because I think in the U.S., especially in the U.S. market, we're not your guy that you're going to buy a 6mm nut from or an 8mm, whatever, just the regular things. We can I think we fit in where, maybe some of the more stranger stuff, or some stuff where you need some real good service or some really good, tracking and make sure it happens. We actually have a little warehouse in China that we have about 10 staff there to do QC for us. So that, factory audits and all that other stuff. So I think, we're not trying to be your other guys, the other big distributors, the importers over there. We kind of do a little more niche work.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite exhibits. It's very inviting, attractive, and you've got a lot of people wearing the flannel shirts. Or I think maybe everybody's wearing flannel shirts.
Yeah, the Pac Bolt guys have the orange, and we have the Fuller blue. So that's
blue.
The Fuller
Do they have to be a specific brand? Flannel shirt
no. No, but we tried to get the girls had a little different. We could not get the same color for what the girls are wearing for. It's funny that you'd think, how hard can it be? But no, apparently it is.
Yeah, good stylish shirt. I'll say that, and good job on the exhibits. It was definitely looked crowded every time I went by, and it was a good environment to see.
The one interesting thing was if you looked at our whole booth and you know the whole thing fits. It's basically two pallets that are all just, the pallets themselves become the bar. You take them apart, all the stuff's inside. So it was quite a neat little design that we came up with. That at the end of the day, when it's all put together, you just go, wow, all that stuff fit into those two boxes. So it was quite neat.
So some good planning. Now, also it turned out to be the location of a on the show floor episode of the guys from Patriot Bolts do their YouTube show called Bolts and Hose, and they did episode 27 from your Bolt Bar, and they came in with their clever shirts, I guess.
Yeah.
And Eric Dudas joined you as well, and you guys filmed that episode there. Tell us about that.
Well, I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't really aware of their strategy or their it's what a great idea to have a podcast that you're always drinking beer while you're doing it. So right away I liked it, and then Eric came along with his beaver theme, and that kind of maybe steered us a little bit the wrong way. But I think we straddled the line.
Connection.
Yeah, we straddled the line. We kept it, semi clean. So it was actually really quite funny. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I watched some of it live, and then I watched it online too on the YouTube channel. So it's pretty good. People want to check it out. It's worth a look. Episode 27, Bolts and Hose, and they had a nice exhibit too. The Patriot Bolt guys too.
Yeah. I think the show was. I don't know, Eric, what you guys are thinking. I mean, in a way, it didn't feel as busy, but yet it was bigger. And I thought all the aisles were bigger. So I think the people were more spread out because talking to Morgan after the fact, he did say that it was actually busier than last year. What did you guys think?
I thought the same as you. It seemed at times that it was busy in certain pockets, and other times it seemed less so. But there were, I think 44%, the number as I saw, there was like 40-some% more exhibitors than last time. So I think people were spread out more. And the numbers they reported, the raw numbers were higher than they were last year. So
yeah,
it had an up and down feel, but I think it was because there was more exhibitors there. Things were a little bit more spread out. But for me, it was worthwhile. Yeah.
I think the second day, when the doors opened, there was a bit of a buzz. The first day, I think there was a lot of people trying to get their tickets. And when the doors opened, there wasn't that stream of people coming in because I think there was so many people stuck outside still. But yeah, overall, definitely, I think it was a good show. It was a lot bigger. I remember last year when we were setting up, walking down to the show office, and they had maybe a 25% of the floor still available behind, which this year was totally taken up.
Yeah, it was definitely more. And I saw, some new exhibitors as well as some new exhibits, and I enjoyed being there.
Yeah, it's always a good time. The one thing I think for Canadians was a little bit difficult because our Thanksgiving was on the Monday. So
right after or before.
Yeah. So first, I think there was a lot of people who probably maybe didn't come down because of that. Although for me, realistically, I think even coming and just flying in on the day of the show, the first day, check in your hotel, get your ticket, do a little bit of looking around. The second day is not as busy. I think it's almost a better strategy is just to kind of do a half day at the beginning. And then because on day number 2, you really have an opportunity to talk to the people you want to talk to because they're not as busy.
Right. They're not looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
There's my best customer over there. Thanks. Push you aside. But yeah. Well, that's a good way to look at it. But I think next year the show is in September.
Yeah.
Instead of October. So you'll miss your Thanksgiving, but it'll be, I don't know, some other conflicts.
Well, it'll be a little earlier. You can hang at the pool, maybe, a little better.
Good. Well, anything else you want to add?
Well, I went to the U2 concert at the Sphere, and that was fantastic. I'm not necessarily a U2 fan, but I think I do have to say that it's probably ruined every other concert for me from now on, just because the show itself is so unique and so interesting at the Sphere. So I definitely think, if you're in Vegas and you got a chance to have a look at that, it's pretty cool.
I have to check it out. Good. Well, I'm glad you're able to come on the show and talk about the FDI, the FLI, and Fuller Metric, Pac-West, and what you guys had going on with the Canadian Bolt Bar and the Bolts and Hose episode.
Yeah, so thanks guys for having me on. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see some of you. I'm going down to the holiday party for Pac-West that we're having in December, and then the next thing will be we have an after hours coming up. The next one is San Francisco area. I think I don't have it in front of me.
The Bay, it's Newark, California.
Yeah,
the Bay Area.
Bay Area. So that's going to be an after hours, which is free to attend. If you're in the area, just come on out. Just fire off an email that you're coming, so we know we can reserve some
Quite
food
a few
for you.
Good-looking beers on the little banner here.
And then the holiday party is coming up, and then after that will be the spring conference, and we will actually have an after hours in Canada in June this year, which are always, those after hours are really fun. You just come on out and say hello, and you don't have to be a member to attend, which is quite good.
Very good. Well, once again, thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll get a chance to have you back on the show in the future.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Hans. That was Hans Fuller. He's the managing director at Fuller Metric Parts Limited. He's also the president of the Pac-West. The FDI number for October 2023 was 52.6 versus 48.5 in September. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. Endries International in Brillion, Wisconsin acquired the Viscan Group, a supplier of specialized screws, general fasteners, and related components. Founded in 1992 by Sylvain Barrel and headquartered in Joliet, Quebec, Canada, Viscan offers more than 25,000 unique SKUs, including proprietary components, and it provides a variety of value-added services, included vendor-managed inventory solutions, as well as in-house secondary process operations such as painting and plating. Viscan's existing associates, together with its leadership team of Sylvain Barrel, Catherine Barrel, and Michael Barrel, will continue managing daily operations. Steve Endries, chairman of the board, said, quote, "It is a great honor to be selected by the Barrel family to acquire the business they founded and have successfully grown. The trust they have placed in us is not something we take lightly. We look forward to working with this talented leadership group," end quote. Michael Knight, president and CEO of Endries International, added, quote, "As with prior acquisitions, the addition of Viscan will make Endries not only bigger but better by expanding existing operations in Canada and providing new opportunities for growth throughout North America. We are excited to welcome Viscan associates to our family," end quote. And Sylvain Barrel closed out the comments with, quote, "Joining forces with Endries will expand our potential, and together I am confident that we will reach unparalleled heights. I am genuinely excited for what the future holds, not only for our business, but for our customers who will benefit from enhanced services and a wider product range," end quote. Endries is a distributor of fasteners and Class C parts serving industrial OEMs and the industrial marketplace worldwide from 11 distribution centers. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In corporate news, Italian high-strength fasteners producer Poga Polini signed a definitive agreement to acquire Houston Precision Fasteners in Texas. Fastenal and the National Hockey League extended their multi-year global partnership. Nefco completed the acquisition of Edge Construction Supply, and MPE Partners invested in Mid-States Bolt and Screw Company. In personnel news, Kevin Matthews was appointed President Global Hardware at Incora. Dyson Corporation hired Juliette Cooper as Environmental Health and Safety Engineer and Jordan Brown as Systems Administrator. Blackhawk Industrial appointed Daniel Vermillion to the newly formed position of Director of Operations for National Accounts. General Fasteners Company, also known as GFC, welcomed Carolyn Law as its new Vice President of Supply Chain. Martin Supply appointed Steve McClanahan as Chief Financial Officer. K-Max reorganized its executive board with a new CEO and a new CFO. Brighton Best International appointed Gary Schottlander as the new group manager for DPA, also known as Distributor Partnership of America. And TriMas named Vitaly Rusakov as president of TriMas Aerospace. In milestone and award news, Optimus received a Supplier Excellence Award from Caterpillar. And Groovepin was recognized by Providence Business News for overall excellence as a mid-size manufacturer. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about the electrical grid. The International Energy Agency, also known as IEA, issued a press release in October warning that the USA electricity grids may be the weak link in realizing the clean energy transition that is promised and desired by so many political, academic, and corporate leaders. The release states, quote, achieving all national climate and energy goals will require adding or replacing 80 million kilometers of power lines by 2040, an amount equal to the entire existing global grid, according to a detailed country-by-country analysis carried out for the report. Major changes to how grids operate and are regulated are also essential, while annual investment in grids, which has remained broadly stagnant, needs to double to more than $600 billion a year by 2030, end quote. The statement may bring joy to power cable makers as well as to the suppliers of all the related connectors and hardware, but I wonder if anybody outside of the industries that actually make these products has an idea where the materials and money will come from to make them, let alone the amount of fossil fuels that will be required to make the needed polymers, copper, aluminum, and steel that go into these grid products. A Wall Street Journal editorial says that the most likely answer is, quote, China, which dominates the global copper, steel, and aluminum production owing to its lax environmental regulation and low labor costs, end quote. And to all of this, I say, experts and master planners should remember to actually count the cost of their schemes and conduct actual market research on consumers before proceeding with artificial and simplistic directives and deadlines. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Gerbil Fasteners has consistently increased its stock inventory in Houston, Texas, as well as focused on developing new, innovative battery-powered cordless tools to improve industry efficiency. Our company's strategy is to provide a level of quality and innovation that stands out among the rest. If you are interested in being part of a brand that is revolutionizing the industry, make sure to contact Gerbil Fasteners today to see what we have to offer. Gerbil Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
When the project calls for mission-critical bolted solutions, call J. Lanfranco.
My name is Tim Castiglia and I work for BBA Project. I have been working with Jason and the Lanfranco team for over 15 years. The Lanfranco lock nut is an excellent lock nut to use if you have an application that has high vibration or varying temperatures. One of the best things about working with Lanfranco is their dependability. Jason went over and beyond what was required to make sure my customers' needs were met.
Precision, efficiency, durability. For over 40 years. jlanfranco.com.
This is Jake Davis with BTM Manufacturing, and for over 50 years, we have been a leading manufacturer of bent wire and threaded products, including U-bolts, single and double-end studs, anchor bolts, and many more per-print items. Based in the heart of America, Kansas City, Missouri, BTM supports Fully Threaded Radio because they support our fastener industry. Being a part of FTR is almost as good as a hot cup of industry favorite U-bolt blend coffee. And if you still don't know how good that is, call BTM Manufacturing today and find out for yourself. BTM Manufacturing, commitment to service.
Hello, everyone. This is Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from the Fastener Training Institute and Carver Labs in beautiful El Cajon, California. Today's topic didn't really come from anyone's question. It just turns out that I happen to be spending a lot of time in the lab lately testing brake mandrel blind rivets, also known as pop rivets or nail rivets. And there are a few things to know that if you are a fastener expert or consider yourself wise in the ways of fasteners, and particularly blind rivets, that most people don't know that I thought you should know. So when we return, I'll give you a few basics and a few things that go beyond the basics when it comes to brake mandrel blind rivets.
At Würth, status quo isn't an option. Würth is a global supply chain solutions provider of fasteners, MRO, and safety products, along with value-added services like kitting and assembly, 3D printing, and engineering assistance. Find out what Würth can do for you at WürthIndustry.com.
Hello everyone, Ashley Parker with Parker Fasteners. Do you have a dual source for socket product lines? With everything going on in the world, don't get caught single-sourced. Bring solutions to your customers' needs. Begin investing in domestic products. You will decrease transportation, lead times, increase sustainability, and you'll be carrying quality products you can trust. Start forging your future by enhancing your supply chain. Join the movement and call Parker Fasteners today. Forged USA.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute, talking to you about brake mandrel blind rivets, commonly called blind rivets or pop rivets. I've been doing a lot of testing of rivets lately, and it occurred to me that some of the things that you have to know to test rivets, most people don't know. I'm going to tell you that, but first I'm going to tell you all the common stuff that there is to know about blind rivets. First, a blind rivet is what it sounds like. It's a rivet that you can install from one side of the work. It's got a body and it's got a nail, and you put it in a hole and hold two things together or more maybe with a tool, a hand tool or a pneumatic tool or a hydraulic tool or some kind of a tool to set the rivet. The mandrel pulls through the body, expands it on the backside, it breaks off, and it sets. Pop, pop, pop. Very nice, actually very sophisticated fastener for not having any threads. Now, the first thing to know about blind rivets is they come in different materials. The most common material that we see is aluminum. We have an aluminum body and an aluminum mandrel or nail. And that part of the rivet, the material, is part of the part number. So if it's an aluminum rivet with an aluminum nail, we would call that rivet an AA rivet for aluminum. Various manufacturers use different configurations for their part numbers. That aluminum alloy rivet body also comes with a carbon steel mandrel. In that case, we would call it an AS for aluminum steel. Now, we also have steel rivets, and those steel rivets would come with a steel mandrel only because an aluminum mandrel would not be strong enough to set them. So that's called an SS rivet, steel. And then, of course, we have stainless steel. And stainless steel rivets come with stainless steel mandrels, in which case it would be ST for stainless steel. And they come with a carbon steel mandrel, which makes them slightly cheaper. And that would be an STS, or stainless steel body steel mandrel. There are some other materials. We're going to leave those alone, copper, nickel copper, and so on. But mainly we've got aluminum, steel, stainless steel, and stainless steel with a steel mandrel. So that's the first part of the part number. That's the material. And then there's the size. Rivets come in diameters and lengths, and the diameters are measured in 30 of an inch, and they're given numbers, such as 3 for 3 30-seconds, and 4 for 4 30-seconds, which is actually an eighth, and 5 for 5 30-seconds, which is an odd duck. We don't see a lot of those, and 6 for 6 30-seconds, which is 3/16, and then, of course, we would have 8 for 8 30-seconds, which would be 1/4 of an inch in diameter. So now we have a diameter. Next, there is a length, which is actually the grip range length, measured in its maximum. The diameter of the rivets are measured in 30/2 of an inch, and the grips are measured in 1/16 of an inch. So, for example, an 1/8 inch rivet with a 1/4 inch grip would be called a 44 rivet, 4 for the diameter and 4 for the length being measured in 1/16 of an inch, 4/16 being a 1/4 of an inch. Now we have a material and a rivet diameter and size, or I sometimes call the rivet number. So, for example, an 1/8 inch by a 1/4 inch aluminum rivet would be an AA44. One more feature of the rivet would be its head. The most common head is a dome head, or it looks like a button head. Another rivet head would be a countersunk head, and then another rivet head would be a large flange head. So, putting all that together, we can get a rivet part number. So now we go with our rivet material. Let's say it's aluminum. The head is a dome head. We're going to add a D into there somewhere. So AAD. And then we have a rivet number, 44 for 1/8 inch diameter by 1/4 inch long, AAD 44. Now that's the number scheme that I grew up with when I worked for a fastener distributor. And we made it up, and it's the best rivet part numbering system ever. Better than all the manufacturer's systems, which I think are more confusing. So you just basically have to know which products you sell, buy, or use, and how to use their part numbering system. So that's what everybody knows about blind rivets. You're saying to yourself, no kidding, Carmen, I knew all that. So here maybe are a few things that you may not have known. That is that all blind rivets have a standard that they abide by, just like most other fasteners. And the most common fastener standard for brake mandrel blind rivets is the IFI 114 for inch rivets. And we're going to stick with inch rivets for this Fastener Training Minute. We'll do another Fastener Training Minute for metric rivets or ISO rivets at another time. If you have your IFI book, by the way, and almost anyone, even the older ones, will work for this because they haven't changed much, you should get it out and look at IFI 114. That's where brake mandrel blind rivets come from. There is also a really cool standard called IFI 110, which has the glossary of terms relating to blind rivets. We're not going to cover that. You can find out all about that in an FTI webinar on blind rivets. Old one or a new one. I think we're going to be doing a new one on blind rivets soon. And then there are lots of other miscellaneous standards that are takeoffs on the standard IFI 114 brake mandrel blind rivets, such as IFI 116, which is a multi-grip, and 117, which is a self-plugging and structurals, and 3 or 4 or 5 different ones. And then finally, well, let's stay in 114 for just a minute, because what I wanted to tell you as well that you probably didn't know is that these IFI 114 and all the other rivets as well, blind rivets, have performance requirements. So we test them for 4 or 5 different things depending on the standard. We test them for their tensile strength after they're set. We test them for their shear strength after they're set. We test them for the strength of just the mandrel itself. We test them to be sure the mandrel will be retained in the body after the rivet is set. And we test them to make sure that the mandrel will be retained in the body while it's still in the package so it doesn't fall apart during shipping or before it gets used. And there's lots of details on those. Now, because we test them, it only stands to reason they have to meet some kind of requirement. And now we're going to introduce the concept of grade. There are many different grades of blind rivets, mainly based on the material. And so the performance would follow the material and the size. The most common grades are grade 11. It starts at 9, by the way, and goes to 54, skips a bunch of numbers, but there's about 15 different grades. But the most common one for aluminum is 11, aluminum. Then we have aluminum with a steel mandrel. It's grade 19. There's several others in between. Our steel rivets are grade 30. Our stainless steel with a carbon steel mandrel is grade 50, and Grade 51 is the stainless steel rivet with a stainless steel mandrel. So there are 6 common grades, 11, 19, 30, 50, and 51, which a bunch of others in between and on the other sides of that you can learn about at the FTI webinar. And so that's the things about blind rivets I think that most people don't know, is that they have a standard or many standards. There's a glossary. There are tests that are required, and they have grade designations. Well, it's about all there is to know right now about brake mandrel blind rivets that we can get into 1 minute. Maybe it's been 5 minutes so far. I don't know. But I'll encourage you very much to attend the next FTI webinar on brake mandrel blind rivets. This has been your Fastener Training Minute. I'm Carmen Vertullo. Thanks for listening.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, SOLUTIO. Solution Industry. We are solution.
Hi, this is Robbie Gilchrist with Capital Marketing and Gilchrist Associates. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio, hosted by Brian and Eric.
One of the great things about doing Fully Threaded Radio is we get to talk to some of the smartest people in the industry. And that's the case right now. This time we're talking with Darlene Collis. She's Vice President of Quality at Lindfast Solutions Group. Darlene, I'm glad we were able to put this together. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
We're all good, thank you.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, I think. I was talking with Carmen earlier, and he said, of course, he's big into all the standard groups and all that, and so are you. I didn't know that. You're working with him right now on his mentor group, right? And man, you've got so much to talk about. Where do we start?
That's a good question. There is a lot of stuff going on. There's always a lot of moving parts when it comes to quality.
Well, quality seems to get intertwined with lots and lots and lots of things, because my introduction to you was on the basis of your huge knowledge about different coatings, fastener coatings.
Yes, I've been in this industry over 25 years, and the majority of it was spent in metal finishing operations, so primarily zinc flake applications. I have some background in plating, finishing, testing, patching, all of those, and even heat treat operations as well.
So, Brian, you, when you're doing your scrubber projects, will reach out to various experts. And how did you get plugged in that Darlene was the lady to tap on that question? Who told you?
Well, I was at the Fastener show in Chicago, Midwest, and I went up to Matt DeLord and I said, I've got this real problem. I am trying to make some sense out of these different proprietary coatings that they put on screws, sort of particularly masonry screws. And I'm trying to work out how to break them down into types so I don't have to have every single trade name as a separate option, because we'll never, it's not the point of FCH. We're trying to lead people into similar things, not to get caught up in trade names. And he said, I know exactly the person who can help you, and dragged me across to Darlene, who was standing in the Lindfast booth.
So yeah, Matt's great people. I've known him for a very long time. So I'm happy to help. It's been my area of expertise for as long as I've been in this industry. So again, it's from the things that I've learned over the years, and that's the same thing in, Eric, when you mentioned Fastener, the Fastener mentoring program that Carmen has. It's getting together with people that have an interest in knowing some of the pros and cons of different coating technologies, as well as the application techniques. Why is my socket head cap screw full of coating? There's just a lot of really good things that you can do to, and the technology out there is amazing. Knowing who has that technology and how to best coat fasteners and make sure that they're functional when you get them to be applied into projects.
Right. Well, nobody knows it all, but that's what you're doing with that group. And Carmen's been driving that along. And it's pretty obvious that you're one of the leaders there. And of course, with all the standards organizations that you're a part of, I'm going to ask you to list them all off. We've got all day, don't worry. But it's pretty impressive. And this is the kind of knowledge that we bring into the organizations when we share this type of thing. And that's one of the things that's so great about the fastener industry. Tee off on that. Name them off if you could, because there's so many committees. I stopped writing them down, I think.
I've been involved in the ASTM committees for F16, specifically for fasteners, and I looked that up when I was there last week. We just met in Washington, D.C., and I've been involved in that group over 15 years.
Wow.
Now, they're getting, in May of 2024, will be the 50th anniversary of F16, which is the fastener committee that holds all of the standards that we look at every day, A574, F835, F912, F606. I could rattle those off all day. They have jurisdiction over, an upwards of 100 different standards for manufacturing from ASTM level, it's incredible. I'm also involved in B08, which is the Metallic and Inorganic Coatings Committee of ASTM. So there's a lot of expertise there as well, and interaction with other people in the coatings industry that have a general interest in the betterment of coating applications and that industry in general. I'm also involved in ASME. So I am a part of that group. I am the vice chair of the ISO TAG, and the TAG stands for Task Advisory Group. And we consult the North American TAG, which is, again, vice chair of, and John Metcalf is our chairman. Albert Gellis from Dorkin is our secretary, and we consult with the other organizations across the world that are all involved in the International Standards Organization. So ISO, we just went to Tokyo and met with them. And there's a lot of delegations from Italy and Germany and France and Canada. So there's a lot of expertise in that area. There's also organizations like SAE. One of my guys, Tony Reed, is actually involved in SAE. And I think those are the ones that I'm involved in today. I was looking at some of that when I was in Washington last week. We meet twice a year. So for ASTM specifically, ISO meets once a year, ASTM meets twice a year. And the ASTM, there are so many different committees. And I was looking to see some of the ones that might be of interest. Of course, F16 is the primary. That's our fasteners. It includes not only manufacturing, but secondary finishing operations, standards that are involved in secondary finishing, inspection and testing. So there's several subcommittees within there. There's usually anywhere in upwards of 8 to 10 subcommittees within each one of those committees. So F16, for example, has 10 different subcommittees that everybody gets involved in. To cover all of those different areas, be it manufacturing, inspection and testing, and secondary finishing. We collaborate, we go twice a year. It's November and May is committee week. Now there's other, if you're in, corrosion of metals, which is GO1 or other subcommittees, you might be different times of the year, but primarily those are the times of the year that we go is May and November. We look at standards. If you look at an ASTM standard, they get updated every 5 years. And so when they come up on the slate, they either get reapproved without change, they get revised to incorporate new and better technologies, best practices, different things that we can add into the standard for clarity, for, again, just updating general practice, or standards will be withdrawn.
Wow. So how many are usually on the docket? I mean, it seems like a huge job.
It is a huge job. And you got to figure too, and I always say this committee is made up of volunteers. Everybody that goes to this committee, myself included, we're volunteering our time in addition to the jobs that we hold.
Right. I was just going to say, so in your spare time, you kind of try to help out Lindfast a little bit.
Yeah, in my spare time. Exactly. Yeah, the last month it has been spare time, quite honestly, because ISO was just in October. So, So yeah, it's a lot. And that's one of the things is, again, in May of 2024, F16, that Fastener Committee will celebrate its 50 years in existence. So we've had volunteers. Joe Greenslade was one of them. Before, you've got Carmen Vertullo, you've got Salim Brahimi, you've got a lot of industry experts that come in, lend their expertise. We look at these standards and figure out, is the requirement for different things within this standard, the requirements, are they outdated? Is there better ways to do things these days? And that is the beauty of being involved in these standards committees, because you do commit to putting your general, your bias aside. You're not coming in with a personal interest in getting one of your products introduced into, the industry, but you do come in and you can implement or talk about the opportunity to update these standards to bring in best practices.
Right.
There's a lot to be said about that, because if you look at some of the mill standards that are out there that are dated in 1985, and if you think about that, again, in ASTM, standards get looked at least every 5 years. So they would have been updated. Again, if you're looking at a standards that's from 2010, it's been updated probably 3 times by now.
Wow. So, going back, did you answer the question, how many would be on the docket? I mean, realistically, what are you looking at? Is it 100? I mean, it sounds like thousands and thousands, but that's not realistic. How many do you do in a given meeting?
Well, this last time we had a concentration, we had several task group meetings, because what happens is if there's a revision to be made, we'll generally put a task group together, and it's a collaboration of people that have a general interest in the standard. Maybe it's something that they do day in and day out. So they get those people together and they go through the standard, sometimes line by line. That's what's happening right now in ISO, in the ISO organization. They're going through ISO 898-1 on a line-by-line basis because it's outdated. And so they want to make sure that they incorporate things that are there. So you can have in upwards of 20 standards at any given time that are in rotation to be reviewed. I was looking this morning at the slate of standards that are on the docket to be reviewed, and in F16 main committee, there's about, I want to say there might have been 22 on there. And just coming from the meetings in Washington, D.C., we were going through every single one of them in there. We were talking about the changes that were being made. And again, there's a lot of hours and effort that go into the maintenance and general betterment of these standards over time.
Oh, I'm sure there's tons. I mean, it surprises me that anyone can actually afford the time to do all this and do an ordinary job as well. That's what I find surprising.
Yeah, and we get in there and we look, and the good news is the more hands that you have, the easier the work is, right? So that's kind of one of the things that I would encourage people is, being involved with the F16 group over the years. Every single time I go to one of these committee meetings, I learn things. There's not a time that I go that I don't soak in something new, and it just makes me better at my job long term. It gives me details that I can lend to my team when questions come up about certain things. Again, as I mentioned, some of those industry experts that are always staples in those committees, they're there and they have the expertise, and they do, it's not quite the same as what Carmen is doing with the mentoring, but it's close.
Right. That's the payoff. So when we had Dr. Brahimi on, he said a similar thing, Darlene, and he was big on the recruitment. His idea is you have to be at a certain level to be accepted by the committee, to take on this kind of work. But the point is nobody gets there as a super expert. And then over time, you become one.
Absolutely.
So then for a sort of a question that interests me particularly, I suppose lots of things do, but if you're on the ISO committee and you see that they're reworking standards and things, I mean, is there any view that maybe some of the ISO standards and some of the ASME standards should really be joined up together? I mean, you have people working on really what are the same things. Specifying the strength of steel. Here I am working with some companies in America at the moment, and we're trying to find certain things relating to ASTM specs for steel. And, in the metric world, you can accomplish with like 6 grades of steel what the ASTM has about 50 different grades for. And it's very messy and complicated.
Absolutely. And so what we do, so like specifically in ISO, when you mentioned that, again, a lot of delegates were at the ISO meetings in Tokyo. So you had the German delegation, you had the Italian delegation, France, Canada, China, Tokyo, or Japan. You had British standards, and then you had the ASTM and the ISO tag for North America. And what we do is we talk about collaboration, because it only makes sense for us to try and align to the degree possible across the globe. If you've got an ISO standard that differs from a North American standard, there's always going to be questions, whether you're talking about imperial or metric, because ISO commonly will call out imperial and metric in their standards.
Correct. So what do you see in the future? Do you see a hope for a slightly simplified set of American standards? I mean, it's not as if these things, like that the metric standards simply aren't good enough. I mean, because they build big buildings other places of the world and they haven't fallen down yet, okay? And they managed to send rockets up to the moon and they get there. So their own standards for materials can't be especially deficient. They just don't need 50 of them.
Right. And I know that there's actually been an effort in the ASTM F16 since our collaboration, and maybe even before that. That's not fair to say it's just since, but we actually have recognized where ISO has done it better than a standard that we have in place. So we withdrew, at that 5-year cycle, we withdrew the standard to reference in that it would be, and basically when you go in to buy that standard, it would refer you to an ISO standard instead. So because we agree, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. There's no reason to have duplicates if it's, because it just causes confusion a lot of times.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's comforting, I have to say, to me. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I did come from the metric world into America and had already got over miles and inches and things. And then I found all this, the confusion really, and it's not confusing. They're very, very, very carefully specified, but it just seems to me there's too many.
There are a lot, especially when you've got your manufacturing standards, your mechanical standards, which are mostly your ASTM, and then your dimensionals are held in ASME, and then your inspection and testing could be, intermingled between the two.
Right.
So it does, when you're talking about a product, it could have influence from, 3 different standards.
Yeah, I understand. So how do you keep track of if you're on one of the committees? I mean, are you on a committee as an advisory, because you couldn't possibly be doing all the work as well. There's too much work to do. So they set up subcommittees to do all the things, and they report back to the top level group. Is that how it all works?
Yeah, so what we do is when we're in the committee, again, you've usually got, they create a balance in the committee. There's always a balance. So you have an equal quantity of producers and the rest of the group. So the rest of your group is going to be made up of general interest, users,
podcasters.
Yes, podcasters. Exactly. Actually, we have a couple of universities that are involved in our committee because they study fasteners, and keeping up on the standards is very important to what they're doing when they're teaching their students about testing and validation of conformance of products that are going into the industry for specifically like building trades. The Research Council on Structural Connections is another one. I used to be a member of that group, but I haven't been involved for a while. Being involved in the Research Council on Structural Connections was amazing. I got to go out to the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge and be out there looking at the last piece of the bridge, sitting in the harbor, seeing the crane that was going to put it in place, hearing the story about how they had to wait for low tide so they could get it under the Golden Gate Bridge into the bay.
Did it just reek of hydrogen?
God, we hope not. No, we made sure all that was gone before that all happened. So, but it was incredible to get to go out there and meet with the California DOT and see all the inner workings of it. The bolts that I was involved in a company that coated the bolts for that project, and it was a huge honor and an incredible experience to be able to be involved in.
Well, it's an amazing thing to get involved in, seeing, I guess, the final practical fruits of things that you have dealt with in a specification role or been involved with the specification of, to actually see. It's like watching a machine making bolts. It's very sort of humbling to realize, that it's not a very complicated machine, but it pumps away and works thousands of times a day and makes bolts.
Yeah.
Well, let's zero in a little bit on your recent meeting then. What's the hot topic at ASTM? I mean, were you aware of anything that was particularly noteworthy this time?
So there's standards that are being updated. Stainless and non-ferrous has a few, the 879, 880 standards. And then we have some revisions happening with A574. F1941. There's a lot of collaboration that happens in these meetings where we're talking about areas of concern or areas that we think could be improved. So again, when you've got a collaboration of those experts that can come in and say, hey, talking about best practices, here's what we can do to make this standard better. That's always good. So then you have a lot of the meeting of the minds that are there that all are either manufacturing or using these products and understanding what's going to change with them. That's one of the benefits of being involved, is you get to be involved in all of those things so you know what's coming.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You have an influence in that. And again, the cost, it's $115 a year to be involved in ASTM specifically. So your membership is $115. For your trouble, you get access to all the standards that the committee has jurisdiction over, or whatever volume you choose. There's a volume of standards that you get access to in an online forum so that you can pull those up and look at them. And any changes that get made, of course, the Compass updates, and you get all those changes on the fly as you have it. And all they ask is that you vote on standards that come across your desk as they're being revised or revisions are being proposed.
Oh, so you're supplying ongoing input between meetings too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. There's a lot of that. In fact, I have a vote that I have to go out and look at that's still pending in my, usually once they send you a vote to look at, you have a month. You have about a month to get it done. So, because there's sub ballots and main committee ballots and targets that we need to get to in preparation for the next meetings that'll be coming up in May of 2024.
Do they require ID to vote?
No, basically what it is you have an access into your not the same as when we go in for our elections.
Right.
But you've got access to them through your portal. As a member of ASTM, and then you get in there and you will review. You have the potential to comment. You can vote negative with a comment. You can, and then they will vote in the committee. For example, just to explain, this last time there was a vote that was going in for a new coating. That was a new standard that was being proposed for a coating system. And so I voted negative with a comment about the baking threshold, because they had the baking threshold at 31 HRC, and I had indicated that most of the other standards are baking at 39, and this was zinc nickel, and I didn't find that would be, when you look at F1941 or even ISO 4042, they don't really, again, the 39 is going to be your threshold for baking generally.
Oh yeah, that's a stigmatized number in the fastener world.
Exactly. So, they vote. There was a discussion in BO8 about it, and my negative was found persuasive. So they will make that change and reballot concurrently, and then I should be seeing that. Like the whole group will be seeing that. We'll vote again, and then if everything comes together, I would expect it to be finalized in May of 2024 when we go to our next set of meetings.
Oh, okay.
Good work,
Darlene. So when you get one of these questions that you have to vote on, I mean, you have to know a lot. I mean, do you talk to other people who you think might be even more knowledgeable? How do how do you get the intelligence unless you have to be supremely knowledgeable about
on
everything?
all things? Yeah. And do you ever abstain? Do you ever just abstain? You say, I'm passing on this one.
Yeah, because you don't know. I mean, maybe it's a very important thing, but you just don't know the answer. Not everyone can know everything.
Sure. And that's exactly, you're both exactly right. So basically, if I have a question, if I think I know, this doesn't look right, I'll call one of my committee members and say, hey, how did you vote on this? How do you feel about this? And usually, we're very lucky that we have a lot of people who are incredibly knowledgeable, and it's that collaboration. When you get the ability to collaborate like that with other people, it makes such a difference. It makes you feel, like however you're voting is more solid that way. And that is the beauty, again, of having a collaborative group. It's a it's a consensus standards group. So we're not coming into it with any kind of bias. We all are working in the best interest of the industry. And we're trying to do what we feel is best to provide everybody with good guidance with these standards. And there are times that I abstain. Like there was a test that I have never conducted before, myself personally. So I actually abstained for somebody who has more experience with that specific test. My vote wouldn't sway what happened either way.
Well, it sounds really amazing. I mean, I'm glad that you and other people like you are doing all this, okay?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is we're looking for more members. We're looking for more hands. Again, that's the old adage that, the more hands make the work lighter. That's kind of what we would like to see, is people join these groups, get involved. You won't be sorry. There's so much to learn, so much to be involved in, and so much. I mean, if you have expertise, that's really what we're looking for.
Well, what's the on-ramp for all this, Darlene? How do younger people who might be interested get involved?
Basically, you just go into ASTM, the website. It's astm.org, and you would pay a membership fee, join the committees. It's easy to say, which committee you want to be involved in. There's a lot of really great committees in there. Again, I keep talking about F16 for fasteners and B08 for metallic and inorganic coatings. That's my area. But there's FO7 for aerospace and aircraft. There's EO7 for non-destructive testing. There's F20. I want to join this committee so bad. F24, amusement rides and devices. How fun is that?
Yeah.
F27 is snow and water sports. That's right in my wheelhouse too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do they have one for chicken farming?
They don't, but I think you could probably find, there might be, they have F15. I don't know. That's not really consumer products, but you might be interested in corrosion of metals, because you can have a lot of corrosion around chicken farming.
Yeah, that's implied.
Yes.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this. On the travel side of things, you just returned from Tokyo, and so you're going to some exotic locations, and I've no doubt you've been to many over the years. So how does that all get handled? I mean, when you have to go to one of these places, is the company picking that all up, or how does it work?
That's how it's always been. I've been very fortunate that our management has allowed me the opportunity to travel and go to these places, because it is, for the betterment of the industry, and they recognize that. If you can't go to meetings, because there's times when in May where Fastener Fair interfered with my ability to go someplace that I couldn't get back in time and make it all work. So there's hybrid meeting technology. So people that want to participate online are also on a call in the room.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that's always helpful too, because you can vote that way. You can be involved. It's not as great, being there. And when you hear, again, we just got back from Washington, D.C., which sounds really cool, but it's not like we're running around all day going to see the Washington Monument and stuff like that. You might get the opportunity, we're mostly sitting in rooms, mulling over standards and things that are happening. But, in the evenings, you get to go out and have a nice dinner or go do something fun on a day that you might have a couple-hour break. And those are the opportunities. When I went to Tokyo, it was a long travel. I got back from the IFE, and I ended up leaving on Friday. I got to Tokyo Saturday afternoon, and on Sunday I went to Disney Tokyo. I was super excited. I love Walt Disney.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so you do get some opportunities here and there, and they always go to nice places. They make sure that we've got nice meeting facilities because of the fact that we need that technology for the online people to participate as well in hybrid meetings. And then they always make it, in a place that's going to be comfortable for us to sit around and do what we do while we mull over standards.
We're speaking with Darlene Collis. She's Vice President of Quality over at Lindfast Solutions Group. And Lindfast is making a big commitment to the industry in supporting you in all this. And hats off to them. Hats off to you, Darlene, because you're doing great work.
Right.
Thank you.
And I promise I will get my email written to you with my questions about these coatings.
Yeah, Brian's got burning questions. I'm holding them back for you.
Right. Yeah, I have a really good question about A574 too.
Well, hold on to that, Brian. Let's go out with that. But I want to ask you, Darlene, what are you excited about these days over at Lindfast? Because we're big fans of them as well. So what do you have to say?
I am super excited about the Lindfast Solutions Group these days. There is my key word these days, if I had to describe it in one word, it's synergy. We are operating, firing on all cylinders. We've got our departments are working collaboratively, which is the definition of synergy, right?
Mm-hmm,
Better
right.
as a group than its individual parts. So we've got sales and purchasing and quality, and we're all working hand in hand when it comes to products and vendor maintenance and betterment. We're maintaining, our metallurgent test lab just achieved its ISO 17025 accreditation, which is huge for us. So that's right here in Strongsville. Very exciting. We really are doing a fantastic job in the collaborative effort just to make our company better. I feel that we are rising, if not risen to the top, because we have a lot of things to offer our customers.
Well, that's really good to hear. Yeah, and it's not surprising either because this year in Vegas, the booth, of course, all the companies consolidated there. For the first time, I really felt like it seemed seamless.
Yes, I like to, our booth is just enormous, as everybody saw. I like to call it Lindfast Island. So... But it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun out at IFE. We were able to see vendors and customers, and it was a great time out there. And I felt like we got a lot of bang for our buck when we were out there seeing everybody that we were able to see. It was a great show.
Did you get out to the orb?
I did not, but I wanted to.
Yes, you're right. So did we, but we did not either. So
yeah, I wish I would have.
We were talking about that earlier. Now, you responded when I asked about the orb. With your understanding, is that what it's called, or is it the sphere?
I thought it was the sphere, but I know what you're talking about because actually I just saw a picture of it as the pumpkin, like that big. I don't know if you've seen it, but that thing, I was like, oh my gosh, that is phenomenal.
They probably dressed it up for Halloween.
Yeah. It had a big, it wasn't like a scary face, but it just had the most interesting face on it. I was like, that is the best. I need one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to go to something, normally we have this day left over after the show. So I think we actually tried to get into it ourselves after the show, but there was you have to book a week in advance to get anywhere near it.
Well, it was this big controversy. We were talking about it earlier in the podcast, and the orb versus the sphere. It was, I don't know, it was very, very unsettling. We'll leave it there, but that's cool. So you're traveling all around, you're seeing all these great things, you're doing all this good stuff, and yet you took a few minutes to talk with us, and that's great. We sure do appreciate it.
Yeah, we do.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. It was great talking to you guys, and I really hope that this will help kind of drive some interest into these standards organizations because everybody can use help, all of them. So if anybody has any interest at all, reach out to me, reach out to people. Again, get online, look it up, join. You won't be sorry for it.
Wow, it sounds terrific, actually.
It does. And also in lieu of letting Brian at you with his highly technical question, don't want to put you on the spot. I'll just say that earlier you were telling me that you were a Cub Scout mom. And, of course, your motto, always be prepared and all that. So has that really come in handy and helped you out in the fastener industry?
it was so fun being like those. You can only do it for so long when, like having a female running. It's always in the Cub Scouts, right? It's when the boys are little.
Yeah, you could still manage them.
Yes, you could still manage them to some degree there, right? No, but it was so funny. One of the things, it was the science side of it. So I always kind of geared towards the science side of things. And I'll never forget, I still had some of the dads of the boys that were in my group would talk about, I had an experiment where you basically take a beaker and a hard-boiled egg, and if you throw a match into the beaker, put the hard-boiled egg on top, it only takes a minute, and it'll suck that egg right into the beaker. From the pressure, right? So, and it was the funniest. I still have people, if I see people back in our old hometown, I've got a couple of the dads that'd be like, I remember that when you sucked that egg down into that beaker with that match. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's apparently my claim to fame in Cubs.
Right. Well, that's a pretty good claim too, though.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a pretty good Vegas show booth kind of a thing to do,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, magic tricks.
Yeah. Kind of beats tying a $5 bill to a piece of fishing line, like I always do. Oh, that's cool. So you weren't even prepared and you busted that one out. I love it, Darlene. You're wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon.
You're right. We do too. And thank you for all the work you do. Okay. It's very, very much appreciated.
Thanks.
Darlene Collis, Lindfast Group. And we'll be back in just a moment with more Fully Threaded Radio.
At Star Stainless, the sum of all we do is what we consider star quality. It's not just the quality of the products or the service we offer, but the overall approach to the way we do business. Star Stainless Screw Company is a division of Lindfast Solutions Group.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. www.inxsql.com.
Want to know when your BBI order is ready? Subscribe to Mobile Text Message to receive a notification when your order is available. We make it quick and easy to skip the wait. Speak to a Brighton Best representative to get notified by text or email today. Tested, tried, and true. We are Brighton Best International. To learn more about Brighton Best, visit us at www.brightonbest.com.
This is Jason Baines of J. Lanfranco Fasteners, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
So, Bri, when you were in school in science class, did you ever blow anything up in a beaker?
Oh, is this a loaded question? The answer is very, very, very much yes.
I knew it.
Yeah, I was practicing getting the right mixture for my rocket fuel, and I blew up part of the chemistry lab.
I think you told me that one time. Wait a sec, that was actually at your school.
Yeah, it was at high school, and it was a big, typical British 2-story concrete high school, and I blew a set of windows out of the chemistry lab as well.
Oh, I love that. Well, Darlene was sucking things into test tubes, and you were blowing stuff out of school windows. Man, I'm surrounded by some real fastener renegades here.
Right. Well, you have no idea how carefully I tried to work out how to explain that to the chemistry professor. I think they sort of got used to me by then.
Yeah, well, I think when you kind of blow up half of the school, there's really no getting out of that when you kind of got to fess up, right?
No, well, it wasn't half the school. It was a part of the lab. It was sort of, they could fix it up.
Oh, yeah. Well, they should understand then. Oh, yeah. Brian. Okay, well, that was great. I actually thought you'd just laugh that off, but I should have known better.
Right.
Thanks for that. Thanks also to Darlene Collis of Lindfast Solutions Group. She's a great guest to have on. I hope she'll come back again. She's doing great work with the ASTM and some of the other standards organizations she works with. Thanks also to Chapman Revercomb of Würth Revcar, our first feature guest today.
Right.
We also heard from Hans Fuller. He joined Mike McNulty on the Fastener News Report. Thank you, gentlemen. I hope we can keep this FDI rally going, but we'll see. We have confusing mixed signs as we documented on today's episode.
And as we have had for the last 11 months, okay?
Yes, seems like a trend, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Rosa Hearn was our bonus feature today. Don't forget, everybody, get out to nfda-fastener.org. She's participating in this AI panel discussion that the NFDA is holding. That's November 30th. It's free to attend, but they'd like you to register. So do go to the NFDA website for that. And, of course, Carmen Vertullo had the Fastener Training Minute. Thank you, sir. We are no longer blind about rivets that are blind.
Right.
The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Tested, Tried, True, Brighton Best, Goebel Fasteners, Quality the First Time, Go Goebel, Star Stainless, Right Off the Shelf, It's Star. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, J. Lanfranco, Parker Fasteners, Solution Industries, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, and Würth Industry North America. We appreciate all our sponsors, and we appreciate you clicking into the podcast. Please do share it with your friends. Let them know Fully Threaded is a great thing to listen to if you're in the industry. Hey, maybe even if you're outside and you just want to get some
extra knowledge about fasteners.
That or ways to have extra kinds of fun in your science class is what I was thinking. Reach out anytime. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. Well, that's about it for this edition of the podcast. What do you think, Bri? Did we clear up any confusion that you might have had about the way things are, the current state of the industry?
No, I think we created a bit of confusion. I think that our listeners who are listening carefully will be sort of sitting thinking, what is that? You talked about the Mandela effect, so it might pay you to explain what that really is.
Yeah. Well, okay, so a lot of people know this Mandela effect. It really kind of became big a while back. It's been a big meme. Hey, what do I know? I'm so out of touch. I don't know what people know. But essentially, the Mandela effect refers to a phenomenon that was recognized some years back where many, many people thought that the very famous South African freedom fighter Nelson Mandela had passed away in the 80s. But in fact, he was alive and well. I think he died actually in 2013. Point is, so many people thought that he was already passed away. So they named this whole phenomenon after him of misremembering history or recent events, that everybody knows about. And then when people started looking around, they started thinking, is there something weird or confusing happening with the fabric of history, of time, It's like something out of a Doctor Who episode.
Right. Yeah. I do remember that actually. But well, it just shows you this is the power of people who, set about to mislead people. This is why you've got to be so careful reading your news.
Well, that's a good point. And since nobody trusts the news anymore, this stuff has all come to the forefront because now people are wondering, hey, am I losing my mind? Thus, I brought it up in the context of this whole sphere versus orb thing. That's where it all comes from, I remember that. So we were under the impression, the belief that the sphere out there in Vegas at the Venetian was actually called the orb. And everybody that we talked to until after Vegas was calling it the orb. And now we come to find out that it's the sphere. It's like, what's going on here? So seemed kind of the the label is the Mandela effect. We have our own little example of it right here. On the other hand, it could just be my faulty memory. I don't know. But you seem to feel the same way.
I did. But to me, they're one and the same thing, so it's not. I don't get too fussed about that. All I know is that it looks very, very interesting, and I think that we have to go to something inside it to see.
Okay, well, I agree with that, but that's, not the point that I'm making here. But I'll tell you what, here's something to connect to something that you will identify with. We could probably roll out with this one. One of the great examples of the Mandela effect, that's not the sphere orb thing, is something that almost everybody, at least in the U.S., grew up with, and that was Ed McMahon, the sidekick of Johnny Carson, from the late night talk show, and his Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. Now, everybody remembers this. Right. I remember when we started FCH, everybody used to call us the sweepstakes and laugh about Fastener's Clearinghouse for that reason, right? Everybody knows this. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're right. But maybe you have to be a little bit on in years. If you asked someone, 20-year-old what that was, they'd have no idea.
Well, right. They're not going to get the reference, but enough of folks in our audience would. So the point is that Ed McMahon apparently or allegedly never did anything with Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. In fact, it was American Family Publishers. So why was it Publishers Clearinghouse and everybody believes this?
Right.
Little confusion, so we're going to go out with it. We started with it, we're going out with it, Brian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I think that's an appropriate way to put this episode of Fully Threaded Radio in the can.
All right.
For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, try and do your best despite all the confusion, everyone. Sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
The start of the winter, so get used to it, okay?
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.